Mhm.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Actually, as everybody, I'm at home because of the quarantine. I live in Venezuela because I'm from Venezuela, Latino guy, and my name is David.
Welcome to Speaking English Today, David. My name's Amanda. It's really nice to meet you.
Thank you. Glad to meet you too.
So you're in Venezuela right now.
Yes, yes. I'm in front of the Caribbean Ocean. You know, we have beautiful beaches and sun all over the year.
Oh, that's nice. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, here's kind of similar because I'm living in Florida. The beaches here
Oh
are so
yeah.
beautiful.
Actually, we have the same time zone.
Yes, yes, it's 2 o'clock, right? 2:07?
2:07 exactly, the same time zone, which is great because you know you're like, okay, it's the same time, we can schedule and no problem.
Yes, it makes this super easy. I don't have to wake up incredibly early and, have someone come on really late at night.
Tell me about it, tell me about it. I know what it means. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
uh, Especially because because I'm here in Venezuela and I am an online teacher because I teach Spanish online, but I teach Chinese kids. I teach Spanish to Chinese kids. So that means that when now here in Venezuela is 2 p.m., it means 2 a.m. in China.
Yes.
Exactly. So when they start classes, it's 5 p.m., which means that here is 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. So you know the struggle. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm used to it. That's the point. After you get used to it, it's kind of easy.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I kind of had a hard time getting used to it. I used to teach online as well, but I never taught like crazy hours. So depending on when I taught, it kind of depended on what countries I would get for students.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, for me, it's convenient in the sense that I teach from 5 a.m. here Venezuela's time, okay, 5 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And after that, I just get dressed and I go and I go to my to my job because I also teach at a university.
That's awesome. So what do you
Yeah,
teach at the university?
languages, especially English, by the way.
That is amazing. I'm really excited about this conversation because, we have two language teachers in one chat
Yeah.
coming on here, and I this is awesome. I don't even know how to
Really.
express how excited I am about this.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of excited. It's exciting. Sorry, it's kind of excited because not every day you have this chance to talk to somebody that not only is not only is a native speaker of English, but also a teacher, which is amazing in my opinion.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I used to teach on Verbling and on italki before.
Yeah.
Have you heard of those?
Actually, I've been an online teacher on some, virtual, let's say, platforms like those. But these are called Preply. One is called Preply or Preply. I don't know. I don't know. You know um, how they pronounce that, but it's Preply, and the other one is Amazing Talker.
Oh, oh, cool. I haven't
And
talked.
there's
Yeah.
another one. There's another one that is from Europe, and if I'm not mistaken, it's called Superproof or something like that.
Nice. So you teach adults and you teach children languages.
Anyone, anyone, because I have plenty of experience. Yes, I have experience teaching kids, since they are like 5 or 6 years old, uh, and young adults, and even middle-aged people also. I remember teaching once in Preply, a guy from the U.S. because he wanted to have a conversation in Spanish, like conversational practice, and he was like 40 years old. Well, he's still young, of course. He was
Yeah.
very good at speaking Spanish, really. Yeah, he was very good at speaking Spanish. We have a very mature conversation, no strings attached, in the sense that there was no a fixed topic to talk about. It was just like, let's go with the flow.
Nice. Yeah, I really like those kind of lessons where it's really go with the flow.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. You're not like attached to a grammar book or a textbook that you have to follow, and you have to like, oh, this is the time when you have to, this is page 20. Now we have to move on to the next page, which is page 21, and you have to be like giving feedback and making sure that the student is understanding. So it's an open conversation, which is, in my opinion, really good, because you feel like free.
Yes. Yeah, that's what a lot of my students said. With one-on-one tutoring online, there's just so much more flexibility than being in a group class.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the fact that you have to keep discipline in the classroom,
Yes.
that's a difficult stuff.
Yes, in my experience, especially with younger groups, adults not so much, but yeah.
Exactly. I know, because I'm so used to teaching adults. Okay, you're not supposed to be like, uh, hey, you should not be behaving this way. You have to be, or you have to well behave. You have to be well behaved. You don't have to be naughty. So there's no need for that.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So, what languages do you speak?
Actually, I speak 3 languages so far. Okay, my goal is to be a polyglot. Okay, I can speak Spanish, which is my native language. English, as you can see, is my second language. Okay, and Portuguese. I can speak
Oh,
Brazilian Portuguese because I have the beautiful opportunity to work with Brazilian coworkers. I was in charge of a language center. I mean, a language department at a university, and we were responsible for teaching like 7 languages. That
wow.
was amazing. Yeah, that was amazing, because English, of course, was the number one of the priorities. Uh, then Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. We also taught sign languages, Venezuelan sign languages, because they are different depending on the country. And Aboriginal languages. Yeah, that was amazing. Russian, German, and Italian, if I'm not mistaken, and French. Lots of them.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I could pick up some of those phrases, but the one that I was focused on was Portuguese, definitely, because I find Brazilian Portuguese to be really, really melodic. I don't know, but it has there's something about Brazilian Portuguese that is quite compelling, that is quite eye-catching and interesting. Really.
I love
Hmm.
it. Absolutely. Most
Hmm.
of my students that I had online were from Brazil, and it was just,
Wow.
yeah, the accent is great. I absolutely love the Brazilian accent.
Okay, can I ask you a question in Portuguese?
Oh, I can't speak a word, but sure.
Uh, Você fala um pouquinho português?
Does that mean can you speak Portuguese?
At least a little bit, yeah. When you speak a little bit of Portuguese, that's what it means.
Ah,
Hmm.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't speak a word of Portuguese, but I really like the accent and the language sounds really, really different. I really like the
Mhm.
sound of it.
Yeah, definitely. I love Brazilian Portuguese. And the fact that Brazilian Portuguese, well, Portuguese in general, okay, and Spanish are very similar. Grammatically speaking, not some structures, okay, but they sound kind of similar. Yeah, it makes it even easier for you as a native Spanish speaker to understand it and at the same time to be able to speak words in Portuguese. Okay, but just because you speak Spanish doesn't mean that you understand everything and that you can speak just like that. Okay, no. It's not that way. The thing is that because I can speak more than one language, once in my opinion, once you speak another language which is not your first language, you come up with not a process, but like you have your own way to learn the language. So you apply this process to the next language you are interested in. So it makes it a lot easier. Hmm.
Yes, I have personal experience with that, definitely.
Do you speak
Nice.
another language, by the way?
Yes, so English is my first language and I speak Indonesian, some
Wow.
Indonesian. Yeah. Because I lived in Indonesia for 8 years teaching English there
Uh,
before coming
exactly.
back.
Maybe you were at TFL. I don't remember the word.
Yeah,
Uh,
EFL teacher, English as a foreign
exactly.
language.
English as a second language in Asia, because they are very interested in hiring Native Americans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't. I shouldn't have said that Native American because it refers to people in the West. I mean the Indian people, the
Yes.
Aboriginal
I'm
peoples.
so glad that you're bringing this up because a lot of people do say that. A lot of people will say Native Americans, but that's like
Exactly.
the original people that came from America.
Instead of native speakers, American native
Yes.
speakers, okay,
Yes.
U.S. native speakers. Yeah. I have seen that. Okay, just because you are an American, it's like you have open doors in Asia.
Yes. Yeah,
So
that's
you have
true.
you had the chance to teach there for 8 years. That's amazing.
Yeah. And my third language is Korean. I mean, I'm pretty bad in Korean. I can read the alphabet, Hangul,
You
and
mean
I can
South
survive.
Korea? You mean South Korea?
Yeah.
South Korea. So you lived in South Korea as well.
I didn't actually live there. I do have a lot of students from South Korea. I knew a lot of people from South Korea came to Indonesia for work.
Oh.
So I had
Mm.
friends from South Korea. And yeah, like a lot of my students were from South Korea. I have visited there. I actually spent some time with one of my students there. I
Wow,
stayed in
amazing.
Seoul for like 3 days.
Wow, wow. I guess that society is so technological. Okay, considering that they invented the Samsung smartphones and so many smart TVs that I just can't guess,
Oh yeah.
judging by their technology. You know what's fun? Well, what's funny? I mean, about teaching languages, uh, the fact that you can communicate with different people from all over the world, different cultures in just one language makes it not only rewarding, but incredibly amazing. It's just like you are a click away to get in touch with people from so different countries, so different. uh, languages as well and cultures, and it makes you more accepting of each other's differences. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
and yeah, you become so open-minded. You are not that judgmental because you don't feel like you are the center of the world. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, definitely. It absolutely opens your mind and it gives you a view, like a lens through someone else's perspective of what their country is like. So you have something to go off
exactly.
of other than
Exactly.
what your country tells you.
Exactly. And the more important thing, in my opinion, that you see for yourself that we are not that different.
Yes.
In the end, we want the same things. We
Yes.
dream about the same things. And, it's just stupid, in my opinion. It's just stupid, when you see that, just because you're from this country, I can stereotype you. But
Yeah.
when you get the opportunity to speak to somebody else because you can speak another language or you can communicate in their language, so frontiers disappear,
Yes.
borders, differences. It's amazing. In my opinion, that's one of the things that I am so passionate about teaching.
And the stereotypes disappear. Like I
Definitely.
and this is one thing that I'm doing in my channel is there is a view that people have of America, what they think it's like. And it's
Especially because of the media.
yes, yes, it's largely based on movies, a lot of
Yeah.
people watch movies that come from the
Nah, the
US.
Queen, if you watch these movies about high school, the Queen Bee, and the nerdies, and then you see the popular girls and boys. So that's just a little window.
Yes. And sometimes it's not even a good representation of what life is actually like here.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one
For
thing I'm
instance,
going to yeah,
yeah, continue. I'm sorry. Ladies
one thing
first.
thank you. One thing I'm going to do with my channel is as soon as this whole coronavirus things kind of settles down and I can start going out again to the community, I'm going to be documenting cultures in the US. And, there's so many subcultures here, and I'm really going to be documenting what are the
Wow.
people like here, and what is it like here? What can you
Exactly.
find here? What kind of events? What are people doing?
Yeah.
The real US.
What is it like to be an immigrant to the US, for instance? If you come from a country like, let's say, Iran, that has been demonized in the media, for instance, it's just because you come from Iran makes you a terrorist or an enemy to the US. Is that true? For instance, I come from Venezuela. I am from Venezuela, okay? I was born here. My country is beautiful. You can find any kind of weather here, even snow. Do you know that? Did you know that?
I
You
didn't
can
know that,
find
no.
here snow in the west of the country. You
Huh.
can go there and you can see the snow, even though we are a tropical country.
Oh,
Not
cool.
many people know that. We have mountains, we have rivers, we have beautiful beaches, we have deserts, wetlands, we have the part of the Amazon rain forest. We have everything, any kind of weather you can find here. But if you see the media, just because of our government, which is not a good government, of course, it's like, oh, those people are suffering so much that they cannot even get into the internet and communicate with anyone around the world, which is not true. I am living proof of that. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
So that representation in the movies about the U.S. culture is not a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to be debunking that and showing what life is really like here. And
Really nice.
absolutely. So I really want to ask you, as not only a language learner, but a language teacher, what are your
Yeah.
favorite strategies for learning a language?
Well, uh, after so many years of experience, uh, believe it or not, okay, I have been teaching languages for over 17 years now. Yeah. Um, that says a lot because maybe you're like, oh, making some calculations. So that means that maybe I appear younger than the age I am, actually. Okay. So I've been teaching now for over 17 years, I think, okay, at a university level. And all those years, what I have experienced is that there is no specific strategy. I mean, is that when you get in contact with your students or one students, because it's a one-on-one interaction when it comes to online, but I do have the opportunity to have interactions with more than 20 students or 12 students or 15 students in a classroom. Is the vibe, okay, that you feel. Experience gives you that. So you feel the vibe, and according to the vibe, you like test the student's ability to speak English or any other language. And according to that, you come up with a strategy. You can sense immediately, okay, I don't know if this is going to work. What works with a class is going to work with this class, or what works with a student is going to have the same results with this another student. I think that the strategy is going to, you know, you don't have a real or a fixed strategy. That's what I mean. It depends on the student, but what I focus on is the fact that when you learn a language, it means that mistakes are welcome, because making mistakes is part of the process. If you
Yes.
don't make mistakes, okay, you're not going to learn from them, because that's how we acquired our native language, trial and error, and especially the fact that we don't start learning a language writing it. No,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be the way. It shouldn't be the way. But that's what school, okay? That's what school teaches us. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, and that's why, you know, you have a student, and this student has been learning English for 9 years at school, but they are not able to speak the language.
Yes.
Why is that? Is because they haven't had so much interaction? Not at all. It's because they started at the end of the process, and then they go backwards. Yeah, instead of
Yeah.
like, wait a minute. So how did you learn your native language? By input, by listening a lot, by like being passive at the beginning, of course. And then when you feel like ready, you start producing. But when you produce, you imitate. And how can you, this is a question that I always ask my students. How, when you're a kid and you cannot speak yet, how can you understand every command, everything that your parents tell you? How is that possible? And they start like wondering, wow, that is a good question. You understand because as kids, we associate sounds with actions. So that's how you come to realize that, oh, this is the meaning of this, even though you don't know how to write. Okay, so I focus on that, and I focus on telling my students that that is important to have in mind. And one other thing, connected speech, the linking process taking place when speaking or learning a language is so important. Okay, it's so important. That's what gives you the opportunity or enables you to understand movies, for instance. If you listen to, for instance, Friends, which is a series, okay, an American series, uh,
Yes.
you can hear that they speak not very quickly, but very fluent. They squeeze all of the words. They make reductions because it's the way we speak. When we know a language, we don't want to waste time, making pauses. Instead, we put vowels and consonants together. I teach that to my students. And when I teach that to them, it makes a huge difference
Yeah.
in their life. They say, "Oh, now I know what it means," because
Yeah.
three words come into just one. Wow, I didn't know that, because they didn't pay attention that they speak the same way
Yeah.
in their own
Yeah.
language.
Isn't that funny how learning pronunciation isn't just about speaking, but it's also about listening and understanding?
Yeah, and rhythm, which is another feature that you have to be paying attention to. For instance, languages like English is very melodic, it's very rhythmic. Yeah, you speak like, I tell my students, if you want to understand English, it might pronounce correctly every word, but if you don't have the rhythm, forget about it.
Yeah.
Native speakers are not going to understand you, even though you pronounce the words correctly. So
Yeah.
I say to them, hey, think about uh, our heartbeats. Okay, when you see this monitor in the hospitals, you can see that it's like,
Yeah.
okay, these kind of things. Okay, so in English, you stress the most important words,
Yeah.
and the less important ones, you pronounce them very, very, very smooth. Like, are you going to the party? You see, are you going to the party? I didn't say the party. Well, unless I want to emphasize that part.
Yeah, the meaning
So those,
changes completely.
definitely, and the intonation that you give to words, it can it can tell you that if you are upset or if you're happy, for instance. Okay, to me, those are the main strategies that I use with my students, or I make them realize about them.
That's good. That is really, really important.
Mhm.
Um, do you, so you mostly teach Spanish. Do you think that students that struggle in Spanish, what do they usually struggle with?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm very lucky because I speak Spanish, which is the second most spoken language in the world. Okay, yeah. And one thing that makes Spanish so difficult for you to learn is because it has tons of conjugations. Yeah, let me explain to you a little bit about Spanish. Depending on the subject, the verb changes. The ending of the verb changes. It's not about just, oh, this is the present tense and this is the past tense and this is the future tense. It's not about that. It comes down to who is the subject
Yeah.
you're referring to. So that makes it really hard to understand.
Yes.
And that's what my students struggle the most
Uh,
with. Yeah, conjugations. For instance, in English, I can say, I take a shower. We take a shower.
yeah.
They take a shower. The only change in the present tense is the third person singular. She takes a little s, okay, and yes, he takes, the dog takes a shower. It's not possible. We actually, yeah, shower the dog. Okay, but just so you know, just so you see the point, my point. Okay, but in Spanish, take a shower means darse una ducha. Dar, to give. Okay, in Spanish. So I would say, yo me doy una ducha. Tú te das una ducha. You see how different the verb is now? Me
Yeah.
doy, te das. And most importantly, I can omit the subject, something that I cannot do in English.
Huh.
Really? For instance, instead of saying yo me doy una ducha, I can say me doy una ducha. No subject at all. How do I know it's me? Because of the ending of the verb.
Yeah.
That is the most difficult thing in Spanish.
I bet.
Students always struggle with that. Yeah. It's, you can get crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Really.
do you love about learning languages?
Wow. I'm so obsessed with knowing why the grammar is this way. I'm so obsessed. That's one of the things that I love about languages. Uh, the fact that you can have figurative language and one word can mean something in a specific context and it means something completely different in another. So that makes it really interesting. And to know that you can say the same thing or an equivalent, at least in another language, well, to me, it's amazing. The fact that you can learn how to move your tongue in a different way to produce sounds, okay, that when you do it correctly, they are going to be understood by somebody else that is a native. So to me, that makes communication impressive, okay, an impressive process because you get you become able, okay, you become capable of uh, producing sounds in a melodic way or in a flat way, like Spanish. Spanish is a flat language. It's not that language like English. And those differences, okay, I think they are really, really, really amazing. Okay, that makes it stunning. That makes it really interesting, and I'm passionate about it. Yeah, I'm really passionate about it.
I
Really.
can see that. Absolutely. I think my favorite part about learning a language is being able to communicate with people from that culture and that country, being able to
Totally.
communicate with them like in a completely different way, on a completely different level than you could in your own language. Like when I'm learning a language, I don't really enjoy learning the language as much as when I finally get to the point where I'm communicating with people. Then I just take
Yeah,
off and I love it.
yeah, because you see the use of speaking that language.
Yeah.
Because what's the use of speaking this language if you
Yeah.
cannot communicate, which is the main goal, even though you make mistakes.
Yeah. Oh,
That's it.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Like,
and you know what's funny, and it's been scientifically proven, is that when you speak another language, your personality changes.
yeah, I'm not surprised.
Hmm. You change you change the way you move, uh, the way you address people. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I could definitely see that with every language that I learned. You know, you're learning their cultures and customs, and you kind of adapt
Exactly.
that into your own.
And I think that those points that you have just highlighted, you have to let your students know about it. That when you learn a language, not only are you learning a language, you're learning a culture, you're learning customs, you're learning a different way of life. Yeah,
Yes.
so you have to embrace it. That's why I say that it makes you more accepting, okay, of differences. You're not like judging. Oh, you're wearing a turban. What do you call those? You know, people from the Middle East, they wear um, not
The men?
hats. Yeah,
Oh,
men and women, men, especially men, when they wear these things.
I think it's called a turban. I know
Yeah,
the girls will wear a hijab.
yeah. So you're not paying attention to that. You're paying attention to the fact that you can communicate with this person and you can interchange ideas. You can exchange you know, cultures, customs, um, preferences, likes. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It completely opens you up to the world and allows you to see the world in a completely different way.
Yeah, in a completely different life. You see the world differently. Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. And but now that you asked me about um, this process of learning a language, one thing that I think is key for students to like to take their English or any language they are learning to the next level is when they get to feel comfortable using and speaking the language.
Yeah.
To me, that's key. When you
Yes.
feel comfortable, okay, even though you make mistakes, you embrace the mistakes. You feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not like having these limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to speak this language. I'm not gonna be able to communicate with the native speakers. I'm too afraid to do that. No, you forget about that because you feel comfortable. I think that's something that students have to come to realize, and they have to get this process because it's a process. And one more thing that I think is paramount is that when you focus on the process and not the result, you get really good results.
Yes. That is
Mhm.
so true. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I really dislike these advertisements on TV or everywhere when where they say, "Oh, you can learn to speak a language in just 1 month or in 7 days."
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Do you know what you're talking about? I'm not saying that it's impossible because there are so many people. They are so capable. They are so disciplined. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a process and not you cannot be focused on the result,
Yeah.
immediate result.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Definitely,
Yeah.
not to mention that you have to learn a lot of vocabulary. You have to learn in English, for instance, when it comes to English slang, idioms. Wow, my God, that's so profound.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that was so amazing what you said, because it seems like people that get really stressed out over learning a language, they're trying to get to a level that they just keep bringing higher and higher, and they'll never
Yeah,
get to it. So they hate the process and they
exactly.
just get stressed out about just not
And they
achieving
get
where they want to
anxious.
be.
Exactly. They get anxious. They don't even know what their level is
Yes.
because well, at some point, everyone is going to hit a plateau. Okay. So it depends on you. For instance, when I graduated from college, okay, I wasn't even this fluent in English. Okay. So I think that when you graduate from university, okay, you graduate and you have the tools. But from now on, it depends on you. It depends on the person. It depends on how far you want to go
Yes.
or you want to get. It depends on you because most people or some students they're always putting the blame on the teacher. It's the teacher's job to teach me everything. Mm-mm-mm.
I've heard that
No,
one
I don't
before.
think. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they put the
Or
blame on
it's the
you.
school's fault. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just give me a sec.
Sure.
Just give me a sec. Amanda.
Sure.
I'm back. Sorry.
Or it's the school's fault.
Exactly. It's the school's fault. It's everybody's fault, but yours. Hmm. So we have to be responsible as student, as a learner. You have to be responsible. Okay, I think it's 50% my fault and 50% the teacher's responsibility. Okay, we are responsible for our own learning process.
Yes. And we have
Hmm.
to love the process.
Yeah, you have to love the process. If you don't love the process, so you don't know what it takes to learn another language.
Yeah.
And that means that you have to challenge yourself all the time. For instance, you can say something in your own language, in your own in your first language. So ask yourself, continue, constantly, am I able to say these things or these sentence in the target language? So
Yeah.
that requires a lot of not only loyalty, but honesty on your part.
Yes. Absolutely. Self-evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, if you were to start fresh today learning a whole new language and you could go anywhere, you could travel anywhere, how would you begin learning that language?
Wow, that's well. First of all, I think I have to be humble with other people and to myself. Like I have to be true to myself. Okay, like where should I start? From the beginning. From the beginning, like a child. The alphabet to tell the sounds, the alphabet in the first place, so that I can be able to at least spell my name. Okay, I'm gonna have to be true to myself in the sense that because I cannot speak this language, I will be I will have to be using signs. Really. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to ask people, do you speak English? Do you speak Spanish? Because
And
those
it's
are
true.
supposed to be universal languages.
Yeah. And you can communicate a lot without understanding each other's language. It's
Definitely.
it's amazing what you can get
Hmm.
across.
Hmm. Because we're learning like kids, actions and association.
Yes.
Okay, even though you don't get or you don't have any idea what the sound means, or when you see people doing some actions, you say, "Oh, it's like a realization." You go like, "Wow, that means that," in your own language. That's
Yeah.
how you start like loving the process, and you start like feeling, "Oh, it's not that bad. I think I can do this." I think I would do that. And I would be like suffocating in a sense. Why? Because I would be like asking all the time, oh, what is the word for this?
Yeah, what is
Like,
this? Yeah,
yeah, meaning I
exactly.
would use Suggestopedia, or sorry, what they call this kind of approaches. Uh, Suggestopedia, is that the one? I think so. Gestopedia or something like that. You use gestures to
Gestures,
communicate
yeah.
because we need to do that. When we
Yeah,
teach, we use gestures. You
yes.
hear me?
Well, body language
Hmm.
communicates a lot, even in our own
A
language.
lot, a lot. If I'm talking to you and I do this, I don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. That means I'm mad.
And
Yeah,
gestures are universal. It doesn't matter what language you're in, you know.
exactly. Okay, just to give you a hint about it. For instance, women, when we ask you women, and you are really pissed off, are you mad at me? No. So that means you are. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's gesture. That's body language that communicates a lot. Yeah. So we can do that. If I were to learn a new language from scratch, I would do that definitely.
Yeah. I would just completely fully immerse myself in, I would
Definitely.
find people that can't speak my language and I would just
Mhm.
be a part of them and live among them.
That's so important. That's so important because as a native Spanish speaker, I know lots of friends or people from Venezuela, and they have moved to the U.S. Okay, in Florida, you can find lots of people who can speak English and Spanish at the same time. So the point of view moving there is to learn the language. But what would they do? Or what do they usually do? They move to this place and they keep gathering with people that can speak their native language. So
I
they do
tell
not get immersed in the
I
language.
warn my students from Brazil that are going to come visit America. I'm like, don't you come here and speak Portuguese.
Or don't go to Little Brazil, okay?
Yeah.
And don't call a friend, okay, to translate for you
Yeah. Yeah.
everything the native speakers say, okay? You have to fully immerse yourself in the process. That's the only way.
Yeah,
Hmm. It's like,
absolutely.
that happened to me the first time that I could travel abroad. I traveled to a Caribbean island, to an island in the Caribbean where they speak English. Okay, and when I was there, I was in this like process of getting used to it. Even though I learned to be I started to be a teacher, and there came a time, or okay, there came a time when I could make that switch in my head. I stopped thinking in Spanish
Yes.
and I started thinking in English. And
Yeah.
that's what happens to me every time I speak a different language from my native tongue. Okay? When I'm talking to you in English, I forget about speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
Really.
You're
It's
not
like a switch.
practicing translation
Yeah.
in your head.
No, it's like a switch. In my head, I had like a switch, and I can go back and forth. Okay,
Yes.
on purpose, I can do that. When you come to that stage, let's say, you feel like you're competent in the language. You
Yes.
don't need translation anymore, and even if you don't know the word uh, for something, you come up with synonyms, or you can explain or you ask something related to that so that you can get the meaning or the
Yes.
word for that. Mhm.
That's why
And
I
that is
tell
amazing.
that's why I tell my students, like, avoid learning through translation because it's slowing you down. You
Mhm.
can't switch so easily if you're constantly translating back and forth.
Exactly. And it's time consuming and it's very tiring at the same time, really. And one thing
Yes.
they focus a lot is that they want to be perfect when it comes to pronunciation
Yes. Or grammar.
or grammar. And I say to him, I usually tell them, it comes with time. Be
Yeah.
patient, please.
Yeah.
Be patient.
And native speakers don't really have such amazing grammar, do they?
No, no. Tell me about it. No, I used to teach a group of doctors here in my country, my city actually, and they have this American friend, and I invited him to our class so that the doctors could see that they were indeed able to understand an American, I mean, a person from the U.S. or
Yeah.
or a native, uh, and they can not only can they understand, but they can also to communicate with him. Okay. Well, of course, depending on their level, I would tell my friend, this friend of mine, this American friend, hey, please slow down a little bit when it comes to telling a story. Don't come up with so many connected speech because it's gonna get really difficult for them. But luckily for us, this person was from Boston. And in
Ah,
Boston, you have a very good English.
from
They speak
Boston.
they speak so smoothly, and they don't speak like they don't rush when they speak.
And they have their own accent completely. It's
Exactly.
nothing like the rest
Beautiful
of the
one,
US.
a beautiful one,
Yes.
really a beautiful one. So they were like amazed. Wow! Even though we've been learning English for a little time, okay, we can understand. So that makes them feel so confident, and confidence is key also to learning a language. When you
Yes.
get to develop confidence, you feel like, wow, I'm powerful.
True, yeah.
You
Do
feel so
you
good.
do you have favorite language learning tools?
Mm, I think that comes down to the type of learner you are.
Yeah.
What I mean is this: are you better at listening than at watching something written? It comes down to being kinesthetic. It comes down to being a good listener. So depending on the type of learner you are, you can say, oh, my favorite tool for learning a language is by listening, for instance.
Hmm.
Or I have to do both. I have to listen, and at the same time, I have to see something written so that my brain can associate the sounds and the way it is the word is written. So it comes down to that, in my opinion. In my
Yeah.
opinion, that is a key factor when it
Yes.
comes to learning a new language.
Has to be
So
something
I mean,
interesting.
yeah. As for me, I am I am more of a listener. I
Okay.
love listening. Yeah, I have discovered that I am so into listening because when I listen, I can understand much quickly, much more quickly. Sorry.
I see.
Hmm.
I'm kind of a
And
listener as well.
yeah, you know what? And now that I remember, I've been my whole life. I have been a very good imitator.
Yes.
Yeah, since I was a kid. I have a twin brother, by the way. I am a twin. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Cool.
And So when we were very little, I mean, children like 4, 5, 8 years old, we would watch different TV shows, I mean, comics, and we would imitate the way these characters speak in a French accent, in a Chinese accent.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and I think that that led me, in a sense, to be let me in a sense be so good at languages, because I could imitate, and I think that imitation is one key part of the learning process when it comes to learning languages.
Yes. Yeah, especially imitate the people that you want to sound like.
Really, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
The-
absolutely. Like they say that with the Korean language, pronunciation is one of the hardest things to learn. But at a very
yeah,
basic level, only having learned it for a month, I was recording myself on language exchange websites, and people thought I was fluent based on my almost perfect pronunciation. I was
that's
just
one thing that I
copying.
tell my students. Yeah, exactly. You were a
Yeah,
copycat.
yeah.
And I can't blame you, okay? Because even though if you're not, if you don't know how to speak a language perfectly, even when you're not that good, but if you can say phrases, that's one of the things that I think are very important. Do not learn a language word by word. Instead, learn it by chunks. Okay, I mean phrases. When you
Yes.
get to know a phrase and you can say it very fluently, because you as a native speaker, you speak like that, you feel like I identify with you.
Yeah.
Wow, you speak really good Spanish. You speak really good English, just because I know those phrases. And that
Yes.
makes me look that makes me look like fluent. For instance, the fact that if I repeat that in my head over and over, so I'm going to be able to say it nonstop. Okay, the fact that I can, when I say that, you feel like connected with me, like, wow, I speak like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really natural to feel that way.
Because you feel connected, like, wow, you speak like me. Really? That's good. Now I can hear you. Continue. Yeah, I think that happens because
Yeah,
I think that, well, it's been scientifically proven that we humans are wired for connection. Yeah, and when you feel like,
absolutely.
oh, you look like me, or you seem to be speaking like me, okay,
That's
okay,
where
there's
people
some,
gravitate toward each
yeah,
other, you know.
exactly. And you feel like, whoa, you belong to my group. Come on, come here. Yeah,
Yeah. Also, if you learn in chunks like that, I've noticed that it's easier to not make the advanced learner mistakes, like with articles
exactly.
and prepositions. My advanced learners, once they get to a point where their English is almost perfect, those are the two areas that they're struggling with. And if you learn English through phrases, then you can avoid that entirely.
Exactly. You're not thinking about grammar. Am I being perfect?
Yeah,
Is this the correct grammar, even though you don't know how to explain it?
yeah.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. I don't know about you if you know about this, but nowadays in Latin America, reggaeton, a musical gender, let's call it that way, genre, I think it's genre.
Genre? Yeah.
Yeah, genre. It's a French word, I think. Sounds
Yeah.
like. hmm
Anything
Okay,
I can't spell in English is a French word.
okay, yeah, I agree with you. I hear you. Okay, so they made so many mistakes because those are, people from Latin America whose parents immigrated to the US. Okay? So they learn Spanish the US way. They learn English at the same time. So primarily, they are always speaking English. So they make these mistakes. For instance, I am in love with her. You use with as the preposition. So in Spanish, I would say, yo estoy, I am, enamorado de, of, it would be of in English, de ella. So what's the mistake they're always making in their songs, okay? Because these are singers, reggaeton singers. They would say this, yo estoy enamorado con ella. They are translating from English into Spanish.
Yeah. Do you have a word for that? Can you hear me? Yeah, I heard the translation.
Okay, yes, because you were like frozen. That's
Yeah,
why.
we lost connection there for a second. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So
so you said they made this mistake in Spanish because they're
exactly.
speaking directly from English to Spanish, direct translation. Is there a word
Exactly.
for that that you call in Spanish?
Okay, when you do that, when you keep making the same mistake over and over,
Yeah.
well, in the acquisition language process, in the language acquisition process, it's called fossilization.
Yes.
Fossilization. It's like a fossil. It can't. You get stuck
Yeah,
in the same.
fossilization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fossilization. Yeah, you get stuck.
Do they
In
like
Spanish, we call it the same.
okay.
Fossilización.
Or do they call it like
Fossilización.
do they call it like English Spanish?
Exactly. You would say Spanglish.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, especially people from Puerto Rico or Miami. Yeah, they use a lot of Spanglish. Okay,
Yes.
it's my birthday, and cake is the word for you know what in English. In Spanish, it would be pastel or torta. So they would say, tráeme, bring me, tráeme el cake, tráeme el cake, tráeme el cake. Uh, you're like, why do you have to do this? Well, it's their culture. In Puerto Rico, they speak like that. We have to respect that.
Well, that would bring us to a whole new interesting topic on learning languages in like multiple languages as you're growing up as a child. But we won't
Mhm.
have enough time for that. But I would love to have you
Exactly.
back on the show again in the future if you'd like to. And
Definitely. I would love
awesome.
to as well. I think I'm sure that I booked another interview
Awesome.
uh, next Wednesday.
Okay,
I think it's
great.
6. Let me watch. Let me take a look at the calendar.
Okay, well,
Wednesday 8, April 8th.
nice. Nice.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to you again.
Same here. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Okay.
thank you so much for coming on the show on speaking English today. I so appreciate this, David, and I really look forward to talking to you again. You share very, very interesting knowledge that I think people can really benefit from as a language expert and a language teacher.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very grateful that you have given me this opportunity. And, you know, just because I can share some knowledge that I have through all these years teaching, makes me feel good and grateful at the same time because you can, you know, you can like do your part in the sense that people can learn from you as well.
Yes. Yeah. And
Mhm.
that's what makes a teacher feel really good when they're able to really change people's lives. And, like
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say is when you feel like you have somehow changed someone's life and impacted it in a really good way, I mean, that's
Exactly.
everything to a teacher.
That's the most rewarding part
Yeah.
of being a teacher. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very
My
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure as well. Okay.
All right.
See you
I'll see
next.
you next
See you
time.
around. Yeah. See
Yes,
you around.
I will see you around.
Yeah, definitely. Bye, Amanda.
Bye. Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.